Jonathan Hickman, Leinil Francis Yu. The art here was so good. Yu's best work so far. X-Men number 9. When I started reading this book and it began with then, rather than the time or the year, it was just then, the Kree Empire. Yes, don't be specific with times. That's what I'm talking about. And apparently the whole King Egg stuff is the fault of the Kree Empire. Usually I associate the mess with mutants with in space, with gladiators people, the Shi'ar Empire. Kree. You gotta imagine this has something to do with the Empire event and the tie-ins there. I was planning on not picking up those comics. Well, it turns out I'm not gonna pick up any comics, but I was planning on not reading those things because who cares? Like it's just a tie-in event. The War of the Realms all had these tie-in events that no one's ever built up on, especially like Captain Marvel, her 2-issue Kelly Thompson run. No one cares. Though what Gail Simone was writing with Iron Man, no one cares because Dan Slott was writing a story similar to that, where in Gail Simone's run he needed to get his original suit because there was no AI, and then I read later in Dan Slott's run he needed his original Iron Man suit because it had no AI and it wasn't connected to the internet and it was the safe suit to go to. What are we? I remember I think even Venom, Donny Cates stops writing it and Colin Bunn was writing it. I think that's proof to me that these tie-in related to events books are meaningless. They're just there to sell you things. I think Hickman knows that. I give Hickman credit for a lot of things that he probably doesn't do, but but this actually feels like it will be integrated into Empire X-Men and makes me regret not subscribing to them at my LCS, not that it's open. Which no one's LCS is going to be open because Diamond Comics isn't shipping comics anymore. Which, on a side rant, and this is something I'll speak with Professor Bill on our podcast together. I think you should not buy digital comics now. Wait till your comic shops open up. When the comics that we weren't able to buy in March, April, May, June, whenever the comic shops open up, when they're available, then you purchase them. Unless you're gonna buy the digital comics and you're gonna buy the physical comics later on. I mean, who does that? Who buys comics twice? But unless you're gonna do that and you're super supportive of both the industry and your LCS, like you will be wrong for only buying a digital comic and not buying a physical comic. You would also be giving Marvel, DC, the big companies reason to cut out the middleman permanently. Oh look, we don't gotta give money to your local shop. More money for us because it turns out they don't even care about the physical comics. They just want the story. So we don't need that. You're gonna kill physical comics if enough of us leave. But if we show them and we don't increase the sales of digital sales, then we would be showing them that physical comics are always going to be necessary. The LCS, you better show more respect because even when we couldn't get them from our LCSs, we decided to stop getting them at all. So I don't want digital sales to get a bump. If you disagree with me, this isn't even like a hot take or anything, too divisive, really. It's just an opinion. That's what I like about my channel. I usually keep things not, I rarely get racial. Unless we're talking about the X-Men who are kind of parallels to X-Men unrelated. I barely get racial. You don't see me here talking about not just racism, but every divisive topic in the world. That's not me. I didn't talk about the New Warriors here. I did with Comic Book University on our podcast. I keep bringing that up. Maybe I should provide a link to it in my description. But me and him spoke about Outlawed and New Warriors in like the first half of the podcast, and it was a hot 45 minutes maybe, just starting with Outlawed and then going character by character of New Warriors. But I don't know. I'm not here for that clickbaity stuff. I'm here to talk about the comic book, which I haven't been doing in the last 2 minutes. The Kree Empire tie-ins. Let's talk about what else happened in the book. Brew is important again. Jason Aaron invented him or wrote him in Wolverine and the X-Men. He wrote Quentin Quire in Wolverine and the X-Men. He wrote Kid Gladiator, Wolverine X-Men. And all of a sudden, some of those characters matter again. Apparently, what happens in old books matters. That was in question, or that was being said that it didn't. Especially that one comic of Powers of 10, or House of X issue 2. It was the lost 10 years. And you saw what happened during AVX. I interpreted that as events happen in this life similar to the ones that we've seen and we've been reading, and they just wanted to say the lost 10 years. Pepe Larraz drew a picture of it, and okay, but everyone was like, oh, you see, all those are not canon. No, that's never the case. Jonathan Hickman was always referencing old books. We got bloody Vulcan over here. Vulcan is sitting as if the War of Kings happened. They actually said he never died. This matters. So in 2 issues, Brew is elevated way above what Jason Aaron and Jim Zub were trying to do in their Avengers and Agents of Wakanda. And this is the way that Jonathan Hickman rolls. The best comic book writer. He's got to be the best comic book writer of the year. Of the last 12 months. Like, that's of the fiscal year. Jonathan Hickman's been knocking it out of the park. I love that it's not 6 parts all the time. We can get that from the other guys. But this is just, as long as the story takes, as long as it's necessary, which is also why I love what Chip Zdarsky's doing with X-Men FF. It's 4 issues. It's jam-packed. I've satisfied every single book, all 3 of them. And sometimes you don't got to stretch things out to 6 for the trade paperback. You sacrifice story. Trust me, people will still buy the trade paperback. Just reduce the price by, I think, $1, so that it's not $15.99. Because that's the 5 books is $15.99. 6 books are $17.99. At least in Marvel. So then if you decrease it to $13.99, what then is it even worth it? Would they do it? I don't know. I'm not Marvel, but they probably like add a giant size X-Men just to make it 5 issues of a book. Who knows? There's going to be an epic fight where Gladiator knocks the life out of this guy. Did I mention Leinil Francis Yu had great ass artwork? So he knocks the life out of the accuser it is. And while they're there, it got really freaky and scary. They explained to us about Empress, the hierarchy of Queen, drone all the way down. And there's this thing called the King Egg that the Kree invented that you gotta eat. And this page is so spooky because they stopped. And they are bewildered. That's Hepzibah over there. Apparently, Brew ate the egg and is now the king. The king of kings. On your knees. You like my Levy? My Motorhead? Lemmy is his name, not Levy. But then the white pages explain what the King Egg is. Hickman even writes his way out of the story. And it says that if there's a second King Egg introduced, it would compromise the power that the normal king has over the hive. Like, this is StarCraft. And Taro Adun. StarCraft, man. That's what this was. This felt like the Zerg and the Protoss and the Terrans. And I loved it. This was a great comic book. 2 issues. Came in, came out. Knocked out the park. Jonathan Hickman. Lovely work. I'm out. That's the review. Go watch my other videos. Go watch this video here with me and Professor Bill of Comic Book University. Chit-chatting about comics. A lot of New Warriors talk if you ever wanted to know what I thought about it. It's a short story. Short version is, I think it's satire. It's a parody. It's just a joke. Everyone get your panties out of a bunch. It's just a joke.